Welcome into Sports Memo's betting podcast for March 16th. It's Monday morning. That means opening line report with Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome in. How you doing today?
Well, I'm still here, buddy. We've certainly all had better Mondays. This is what is available for betting right now at the Stardust. That's how out of it I am. At the Westgate. This is a tweet from Jeff Sherman. There, you can bet Aussie rules football, Russian KHL hockey conference semifinal playoffs. And there's a handful of soccer leagues. There's Argentina Prima B, Brazil, Chile, the Russia Premier League, Turkey, Australia A, and Serbia. That's what's available for betting on a daily basis. My expertise in those sports is zero. Okay. So what do we focus on? Well, the good news is a couple of books came out with win totals, NFL win totals yesterday. So we have win totals to talk about for all 32 teams, and that's good. The bad news is free agency just started. We haven't had the draft, and we don't have a schedule. And if you think I'm betting an NFL win total before free agencies, draft or win total or the schedule gets announced, you're sadly mistaken. That's not, that's not my process. So we have the win totals to talk about, but frankly, I'm not going to recommend anyone bet on them, and especially given the economic situation that we have right now. And we'll talk about that as the show progresses. Let's talk about the numbers first. But given the economic climate, any money that you're convinced, I shouldn't say it this way. Let me phrase it this way. You better be sure you have enough money to last yourself 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. Whether it's taken out of your bankroll, whether it's taken out of your bank account, whether it's beg, borrow, or steal, whatever it is. Right now, we're in hunker down mode. And if you're talking about NFL future wagers that won't get graded until January for games that, if we're lucky, start in September. And you're talking about putting money in that, betting those now, that's not money that's liquid anymore. Those aren't liquid assets anymore. Once you make that bet, the book gets to keep that until the season gets canceled or the results get graded. So depending on your own personal state of liquidity, if you're liquid, if you got 6 months cash, hey, you're not dipping into your bankroll. You can bet every one of these. But if you don't have that personal liquidity, there's no way I would look anyone in the eye and say, yeah, make a bet right now because this number's not going to be there if 3 months from now you might need that money to pay bills or pay rent or eat. That's a whole different story. Make sense?
It's well worded, Teddy. Yes, absolutely. Some wise advice there, guys. Hunker down mode. Don't lock up your bets for too long here. I mean, keep in mind, if you bet one of these NFL season win totals, which we're going to start off the pod here talking about, get Teddy's opinion because one of the more talented NFL season win total bettors in the industry that I've ever seen. And they're out with numbers right now. We will hit on these, but keep in mind, guys, I mean, you're not going to get paid on these if you win until what, Teddy, December, right, or January?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what week. I think week 17 is into January next year. Yeah, but it'd be after Christmas.
Right.
Again, the books have no legal obligation to give you anything. If the season gets canceled, they can still season gets canceled, they'll refund the wagers. But there's no, once you make the bets, that's no longer liquid for you. Mm-hmm. That is now an asset that has to be dealt with in a whole different way than cash money, liquid. And I'm not, we're not suggesting that that you're gonna need every dime and everyone's gonna be completely broke. But what I'm reading is we're gonna be poor and sick, and it's not it's not a real positive prognosis right now for what we're looking for. And again, we're still way early in it. Again, free agency just started this morning. And there's a ton of oh my God, the trades and the signings are definitely worth talking about already. And it gives us something to do. But as a realistic statement of, these are great bets to make right now. There was a bet yesterday. I'm like, I really want to make this bet. And I'm like, that's a dumb move. You cannot make the bet right now. If you lose half a game between now and September, so be it. But you cannot take the chance of locking up money that you might need liquid somewhere down the road in another month or 2 or 3. And that's realistically where we all are right now, unless you have, if you got 6 months worth of cash set aside, good for you. And those of us with bankrolls have some of that, but you have to preserve that. It's not about right now finding the best bet. It's about making sure my family eats 3 months from now.
Wise words from Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_Covers. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. We got numbers up here from the Circa regular season win totals in the NFL. We'll also hit on some Vegas news, the economy overall. But, guys, and this is the opening line report each and every Monday, simulcast on the Wager Talk and Sports Memo YouTube channels, also wherever you download your podcast. So, Teddy, one question I have right off the bat is these NFL season win totals are up. And you made a point here where it's very interesting to me. There's no schedule out yet. How is this? Yeah. How is this happening? I mean, the teams. I believe like the Miami Dolphins are playing at Allegiant Stadium here. The Las Vegas Raiders. So the teams you're going to be playing are known, but the actual schedule's not out. Correct?
Correct. The schedule was supposed to be released. It's usually about mid-April or so. Anyway, these things happen together. The schedule comes out. You have free agency and you have the draft, and all that's done usually is about the third or fourth week of April.
Okay.
And that's when I start digging into NFL. Is once those, the initial free agency, the draft, and the schedule comes out, I've got enough to work with, and I'm very, very comfortable doing my work. Right now, we don't have any of those. So, and even though you know the opponents you're going to play, that is not the same as knowing your schedule. Right. Good circumstances, bad circumstances. How many teams do you play coming out of a bye? How many teams do you play going into a bye? When you have a four road games in 5 week span, you have an early bye or a late bye. These are all legitimate concerns that you're going to have and going to consider when assessing these NFL season win totals. We have none of them right now, and we don't know when we're going to get them. The NFL, again, the draft, the schedule was originally supposed to come out. I think this second or third week of April, and everything's on hold right now. We don't know if that's going to come out when it was originally supposed to.
Okay. Teddy, so what about some of these numbers? Do you want to start off by division? Do you just want to go overall numbers?
Heck yeah, let's go, baby.
All right, AFC East, guys. We got the Patriots on top at just 9. Bills at 8, so it's kind of a more clustered here in the AFC East, Teddy, than...
you got the juice there? Because the juice is worth talking on these.
I do not have. I'm not showing the juice on.
Okay,
service.
I got the juice here.
Okay, what Patriots 9, Bills 8, Jets 6, Dolphins 6. Have at it in the AFC East, man.
Sure, Patriots 9 over -130. Bills the over on New England 9 -130. The under 9 plus 110. Buffalo at 8. The Jets at 6, both -110 either way. The Dolphins at 6. The under -130. Those are the Circa numbers.
Okay.
I'm also going to give you numbers from PointsBet. And PointsBet, of course, does them in alphabetical order, so I'm going to have to go through.
Oh, no.
The Bills are 8.5 at PointsBet. Again, these are all openers. The Dolphins are 5.5, -110 either way. The Patriots, 10.5 at PointsBet. That's a big disparity, 10.5 versus 9.
Absolutely.
Even 9 over -130. And the New York Football Jets, 6.5 at PointsBet, 6 at Circa. I talked last week about how I thought the Jets were a long shot Super Bowl contender. Okay. I will probably have some Jets. I think that 6 is a great number. And if you want, I'm sure someone's going to take it out. If you're liquid, take it out. That 6 has, I think the even though PointsBet's dealing with a Jersey audience and is going to shade their Eagles, Giants, and Jets numbers at least a little bit. I think the 6.5 there is a better number, and the 6 stands out. For New England at 9 versus 10.5, the choices of where Tom Brady's going to go are shortening. And Brady, the clear favorite now to go back to New England, which means that 9 would likely be low, even though Brady looked his age last December and January. And the Patriots looked like a team that was missing key pieces last December and January. They're still the favorites here with Brady. Without Brady, it's an interesting question what New England looks like. And it's certainly an interesting question what the Patriots would look like. You don't want to say rebuilding because they haven't rebuilt. But New England is a team that has more question marks than most, I would say, in terms of what their roster is going to actually look like and what their goals are for 2020. I wouldn't be betting any Patriots over and taking out that under 10.5 at PointsBet. Again, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Teddy, what about the philosophy? It's kind of like investment-wise, talking about stock market, which we will. You don't want to pick the spot, pick the year where the Patriots don't keep this run. You know what I mean? That's a really tough kind of bet to make, where either you want to be betting on the Patriots to kind of win the AFC East type betting, or just kind of lay off, because picking the point where it stops is pretty hard to do. Do you think there's any truth to that kind of investment angle?
Well, if you've been betting Patriots season win totals under, you've had a rough go the last 20 years.
Exactly.
They haven't cashed many of them. That being said, at 10.5, again, that number at 10.5 really stood out to me. 10.5 minus 110 either way. New England should be is on paper. They're not an 11-win team this year.
Okay.
Early, again, and it's early for this, and more than most teams. More than any team. Well, the Ravens are right there with them. We talk about good organizations. But the Patriots tend to, the holes, they say, oh, my God, they have this huge roster hole. They tend to get fixed by the time the season starts, and sometimes mid-season, which is, New England does that better than anybody.
Teddy, I do got my app here from Circa, so I can read it off with the juice as well. We got Ravens, talking AFC North here, guys. Ravens, 11.5 wins, which is tied for the most in the NFL. We got the Steelers at 9 with minus 130 juice to the over. We got the Browns at 8, and then the Bengals at 5.5, Teddy.
All right, and let me just give the points bet numbers. At points bet, we're looking at 11 for Baltimore, 11 minus 110 either way, compared to the 11.5, the over minus 130. I mean, that's, again, a significant disparity between the two. And these are the only two books that have numbers up yet. So it's very early in the process that I know of. Excuse me. Bengals 6 at points bet compared to 5.5 at Circa. Browns 8 at points bet compared to, that's the same, 8 minus 110 either way. And the Steelers, who are an interesting team to consider. Look at that. They're still putting the Vegas Raiders in the Oakland alphabetical order place. Ooh, for what it's worth.
Okay, we caught them.
The Steelers over 9 at points bet. It's 9. That's minus 110. It's minus 130 at Circa. So again, some fairly minor disparities. It's clear here, however, that the Baltimore Ravens are being power rated as the best team in the NFL. You see that in the win total. You see that from the people that I've talked to. Baltimore's power rating is sky high right now. And Cleveland, a team, I want to talk Cleveland here for just a minute because, a team that has every possible weapon available. They got the Hooper from, somebody from a tight end today that they were coveting to give them even more time. I mean, their skill position talent is sick right now. The coaching staff should be better. One would think that Cleveland is poised for an improvement in 2020. They're in win now mode. And again, these are first gut reactions to numbers. I think Cleveland 8 is low, though I'm confident that there will be at least some wise guy money betting the Browns under. So I'm not convinced that number is going to go up.
Well done, Teddy. We got AFC South up next. Circa numbers here. Titans 8.5. Texans 8.5, juice to the under minus 130, and Colts 8.5. So top 3, all the same number as of right now. Jaguars at 4.5. Those are the numbers. AFC South at Circa, Teddy.
Yeah. So obviously Houston had just completed a blockbuster trade moments before we went on air. From every indication, once again, Bill O'Brien and company got fleeced. When you trade away DeAndre Hopkins and get back an expensive running back that hasn't gained 4 yards per carry in any of the last 3 years. The third trade that they made for a running back in the last year. Talk about head scratchers. Not that we're going to pay Hopkins, but they could have gotten a 1 for him. Yeah. Would you rather have a 1 or would you rather have David Johnson on a fat contract?
Yeah, that doesn't seem right.
It's a head scratcher. When you're looking at that, you're like, what? Let me go through the numbers at PointsBet to see the differences that we have right now. And I don't see, do they take Houston off the board for some reason? Houston's off the board here. I don't know why. GHI, yeah. There's no H. Colts are sitting at 8, -110 either way. Jaguars 5.5, -110 either way. And the obvious over here is the Texans at 8.5, -110 either way. The Texans were the best team in this. The Titans. The Titans down the stretch were the best team in the division. They re-signed their quarterback. They appear to have most of the pieces in place. I look at them as the favorite to win the division in 2020, more so than even Deshaun Watson and Houston. I think Tennessee over 8.5 is the one. Again, first reaction, that's the one that jumps at me. I think the Titans are a playoff team again.
And Teddy, I guess off the board at PointsBet, I just went all the way through the process but didn't press place bet here. It's Texans 8.5 at Circa. Do you think there's anything to that?
I think that the Circa. I think there's a chance that PointsBet might have pulled it down when based on this trade, and I don't know if I'm looking at something old. I mean, I'm just scrolling through right here, so I don't know if there's anything to it. I think it might be a temporary deal, but I don't want to hit refresh because you have to drop down all the menus individually. So if I refresh, I'll have to do it all. It'll be a nightmare. Yeah, for each team, it's like you got to go Atlanta Falcons regular season win, and then you got to drop it down to see what it is. So I'm not going to do that. But I don't see a Texans number on here right now.
Well,
I'm assuming it would be in the 8.5 range, just like we're talking about here. Titans the one that stands out to me from that division.
Okay, heading out west in the AFC West, we got the Chiefs tied for the highest season win total in the NFL with the Ravens sitting at 11.5 right now. We got the Chargers at 8, -120 towards the under. Broncos 7.5. And we got Raiders, our Las Vegas Raiders, Teddy, 7.5, -140 to the under.
Yeah, and again, I don't like falling in love with overs, but the Broncos won 7 games last year with like a rotting corpse at quarterback. Sorry, but it wasn't pretty watching Joe Flacco out there. Is all I'm going to say. When Flacco got hurt, it got worse. Locke showed something at the end of the year. They have a defense. They got skills and talent. At 7.5, that Denver to me stands out. Just around, of course, that's the Vegas number. PointsBet sitting at 7 right now. 7 over -110. The Chiefs are 11.5, and note -110, 11.5 on Kansas City, which shows that Baltimore ranked a little bit higher than -130. Oh, that may be some schedule related. Chargers 7.5. I don't know what to do with the Chargers. My gut reaction is that there's a chance the Chargers get Brady. If the Chargers get Brady, this number is going to be higher than 7.5, and I would probably bet them under. I'm not in love with that roster. Denver's a team Denver's a team that stands out to me. As for the Raiders, again here at PointsBet in Jersey, they're 7. Whereas Vegas has them 7.5 under -140. Oakland, another team that might be a notch or two better. That should be a notch or two better, although they were pretty bad last year. I don't know. That's one. The Broncos were the ones that jumped. It was the one that jumped on me from that division. But again, it's another over. I like when unders jump at me. And we haven't had too many of them yet.
And Teddy, kind of a market question here with the Las Vegas Raiders in Las Vegas being pinned at 7.5. There is juice to that under, and then I guess on the East Coast here, PointsBet just at 7. And this is something that's kind of new to the market in terms of legal betting here. Is that something we should get used to as sports bettors in terms of maybe a half game difference here between East Coast and West Coast legal sports books?
It's not a legit half game difference because it's 7.5 with a juice -140. We normally consider about 50 cents worth of juice is equal to a half win. So under -140 versus under -110, you're actually talking about instead of a half win differential, a 0.2 win, 0.2 win differential when you factor in the juice, which is a differential worth exploiting. But it's not one of these deals where you can count on the fact that the Vegas market is going to be different from the Jersey market. It's going to be different from the Louisiana market. For win totals, it's a global marketplace. You'll find differences, and especially, again, from openers, you'll find differences everywhere. This is not unusual. Books open their numbers, and then the markets move to decide which of those numbers are right and which numbers should stand and which numbers won't. Mm-hmm. So this it's not an unusual process to see. I've seen win totals as high as a game and a half different in the NFL off of openers. Not often. I remember that once, but I remember, wow, But we talked about one here with the Patriots, 9 in Vegas and 10.5 in Jersey right now. That's a legit 1.5 for them. I mean, there's a minus 130 on the over, so it's 1.2 win difference, or 1.3 win difference. But it's a significant difference. That can and does happen very early in the process. It will not last.
Okay.
Assuming people are betting these. And again, I don't know what this, how reluctant people are to get involved with some of these long-term wagers right now, given that, the financial uncertainty that's around the country.
Teddy, heading to the NFC here. We'll start off in the NFC East. Got the circa numbers here. Cowboys, 9.5, minus 130 towards the over. We got the Eagles, 9, minus 130 to the over. Giants, 6.5, small juice to the over. And we got the Redskins at 5 flat.
Will you double check that? Because I see the Giants 6.5, a minus 125 to the under. Has that changed? Because I got the Giants 6.5, minus 115 to the over, minus 105 to the under. That has
so
there's been some money on the Giants over.
Somebody's betting.
Yeah, I'm sure. And again, if you have a bankroll that you can withstand sucking out of that bankroll for however long it takes for sports to start, and know that you're still going to have money in your bankroll when all's said and done, you absolutely should be making these bets. They're bets to make. And the bets at the opener, you're not going to get any better numbers in this.
It's the most inefficient market, yeah.
So just to let me talk about the numbers from Jersey, from PointsBet. I've got Dallas 9.5 at minus 110. Either way, we've got the Giants at 6 versus 6.5 here in town. Eagles 9.5 minus 110. Either way, they're 9 minus 130 at Circa, and the Redskins at 5.5, and they're 5 at Circa. So Dallas is a team I've got some question marks about. Considering their salary cap situation, considering that they franchised, they paid their running back when their key, their quarterback and key receivers have not yet been paid. I'm not betting Dallas over 9.5 right now, especially because every other team in that division will be better than they were last year. I wouldn't argue with anyone who wants the Redskins over 5 either. Although it's still so early in the process, but Dallas under, maybe Washington over.
Okay, yeah, that Washington over. You got your young quarterback after his first off season. Is that the type? That's the type of profile you're looking to bet over, right?
And we're also talking about a team. Washington was pretty god awful last year. They missed they were missing a whole lot of pieces. They have room to spend and a roster that's not hopeless. Mm-hmm. This isn't Cincinnati.
Teddy, we got NFC North up next. We got the Packers at circa 9. We got the Vikings 8.5 minus 135 to the over. We got the Chicago Bears 8.5 minus 125 to the over, and the Detroit Lions 6.5. Teddy.
So, and again, I'm going to give you the PointsBet numbers from Jersey. Bears are 7.5.
Wow.
Compared to 8.5 minus 125. That's a big difference there. Lions 6.5 in both places. Packers 9. And the Vikings, who just locked up Cousins today for another 2 years, also sitting at 9. They're 8.5 here in Vegas. I think the Lions are better. The Lions were another team that won games last year despite having a rotting corpse at the quarterback for extended periods of time. Detroit's a team I hate to bet over. But 6 is low on Detroit. They're not was it 6? No, 6.5. Even 6.5 is low in Detroit. They're a 500 level team. I'm not convinced the Packers will be as good as they were last year. I don't know how good the Packers actually were last year. Everything, a lot of things broke right for them. But Green Bay at 9 would be one that I would be betting that over. I'll put it that way. And again, first reaction. I'm not all that bullish on Green Bay.
Okay, Teddy, we got NFC South here. The Saints, 10.5, -120 to the over. Falcons, 7.5, -130 to the over. The Bucs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here, 8.5. And the Carolina Panthers, 4.5. I believe that is the lowest season win total on the board, tied with the Jaguars here. Carolina Panthers, 4.5. Saints, 10.5 at the top. I right off the bat, Teddy, I kind of like over in the Panthers and under in the Saints. I don't know. How do you feel?
Yeah, I agree. Certainly under the Saints. I don't know. I don't know if I want any part of Carolina. Carolina's the beginning of a full teardown rebuild. And those aren't the teams, you're going to have they're 2 and 3 win teams, and Carolina might be one of those teams this year. They're really not. There's not a lot to like about the looks of their roster. The Bears, the rumor on the Bears today was that they're going after Bridgewater, and they're giving up on Trubisky will be the backup. The Bears get any quarterback other than Trubisky who can start, their number is going to go up. Their win total will go up. So if you want to be proactive with Chicago, it appears they're looking to have some type of a QB competition. I don't even care if it's Dalton. They get another quarterback who's capable of starting games to put a little fire on Trubisky. That makes the Bears a lot better. Why am I talking about the Bears when we're on the next division?
I don't know. I didn't know where you. I didn't know if you were circling back.
And the funny thing is I feel like this pod, so all weekend. Let's be honest. All weekend, I didn't know what to do with myself. I went out. I was weedy. I was like, okay, let's weed. I got a notice from the HOA. You got to clean your weeds at the beginning of spring. And normally I hire someone. I'm like, F that. I'm going to do it myself. I'm like, come on, Isaac. I got the boy. We sat out and weeded for a couple hours yesterday. And I'm like, this one I'm going to do?
Yeah, it's Monday morning. The stock market's down 30%. No sports to bet on. I think everybody out there knows how you're feeling, man.
Yeah, but the key, you gotta have some portion of routine to your day. And you have to have some physical exercise, some physical movement in your day. Otherwise, it's very easy to get depressed and very easy to lose your energy and very easy to feel crappy. So, I've been trying to get out and do something, and hey, weeding for a couple hours for a smoker like me, it's great exercise. I was gassed. I'll do it again today. But the psychological aspects of some of this. We're here. This is a podcast. I've been doing a Monday morning podcast for Sports Memo since you were like a teenager, Drew.
Yeah, we were texting about that. When did it start? In 08?
I mean, this podcast, I started doing an opening line report. I don't even know if it was 03 or 04 or 05. Okay. It's been a while. I don't. Maybe you weren't a teenager then, but I've been doing it. I've been doing a podcast every Monday at sportsmemo.com for a really long time, or pretty much every Monday. And it's a little bit disconcerting, a little bit offsetting when you wake up and you go, okay, this is what I do every single morning of my life. Monday through Sunday. There are no weekends. You get up and you look at the lines and oh crap, Yeah. You look at your Don Best screen and it looks like this. It says. NBA season suspended, MLB season suspended, NHL season suspended, tennis suspended, and NASCAR races. It's just there's no fun to look at, When you look at what's available for sale at Wager Talk and Sports Memo, and the guys who are betting soccer, there's still stuff out there. There's UFC. I mean, it's not like there's nothing for sale, but nothing that I do. So it's psychologically, it's a little bit weird right now. It is for everyone, I'm sure, and that's why I thought it was important that we do the podcast. And I love the fact that we're going through win total numbers. It feels very natural and very normal, and I like that because things haven't felt natural and normal for a good couple of days. So I don't know if that diatribe will go on, but stay sane out there. Saints at 10.5 to me is the easiest under, but again, I thought that last year too. I thought New Orleans. This is a team that has their entire salary cap locked up in their top key players, and it was, and then. They won every close game imaginable, and Breeze got. They're 1-1, and Breeze is hurt, and I'm like, I was counting the money from that win total.
Yeah.
And then Bridgewater came in, and they won 6 games in a row where they all by one score, and I think several of them where they didn't get to 14, where the defense played out of their minds. The point is this: I don't know if the Saints can do that again. My gut reaction on the Saints is absolutely under 10.5, especially with that, the opener of -120. Falcons have taken over money off the opener for what it's worth. And Atlanta, of course, played well enough down the stretch last year to perhaps attract some attention. The Falcons, I wouldn't argue with anyone that's looking at Falcons over. Bucks. Oh, let me give the numbers. Did I give the numbers? I don't even know where I'm at right now.
Yeah, well, no, you can give the numbers, Teddy. And also the NFC South, it's kind of been a division where there's been a lot of change from year to year, from positioning.
Yes.
These teams are all kind of the same type of profile of franchise, kind of getting better or worse as from year to year.
Sure. Didn't they have the NFC South had the worst to first for like 5 years in a row?
Exactly.
This decade. In Jersey, and I apologize if I did this already. Falcons are 8 minus 110 versus the 7.5 that took the over. That you were talking about, the over minus 130 in the AFC South. Carolina is at 6 in Jersey at PointsBet compared to 4.5 here in Vegas. New Orleans is at 10.5 minus 110 either way at PointsBet. And Tampa Bay, who has been the popular rumor for Brady, and now I believe is the betting favorite for Brady, 7.5 in Jersey compared to 8.5 at Circa. So, Tampa's a team I'm very bullish on. We talked about them in the pod last week as well. Bucks over is one that makes a fair bit of sense, and I wouldn't. But out of the grouping, Saints under. And again, it's not like it's spilled milk. That last year's bet's already lost. My gut reaction on this year is, once again, the Saints overachieved last year. I would think they're more likely than the average team to return down from their lofty heights. 10.5, too high.
Liking the Saints towards the under as well from Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. I am Drew Martin on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Feel free to reach out. Any questions you'd like answered. We will be doing this podcast each and every Monday morning going forward on the YouTube for Wager Talk and Sports Memo simulcast there and wherever you're downloading your podcast. We got NFC West numbers here to finish it off, Teddy. From Circa, got the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers, the Super Bowl losers, which is kind of a handicapping angle here. 10.5 minus 130 towards the over. Seahawks, 9.5 minus 130 to the under. The Rams, not the St. Louis Rams, but the LA Rams, 9 minus 120 to the under. And the Arizona Cardinals making that trade that we were just talking about. 7 minus 130 to the under. I kind of like the Cardinals over, Teddy. That offense was starting to heat up there towards the end of the season, and got the Kyler Murray at quarterback. A lot can happen there. I don't know. Kind of like the Cardinals over. What are you feeling here? The NFC West numbers.
So is you're looking at that's a live bettable number now? Because I honestly thought that number would move based on Hopkins. In Jersey, I'm seeing Arizona off the board like Houston was off the board. And once we finish this, I'm going to refresh the page and see if those numbers have come back up. But for the and I 100% Arizona's win now. Okay, mm-hmm. That's a win now. What a fleecing. Certainly at initial there are things to like about the Cards. I'm with you 100%, and my gut reaction there. But on the other hand, their defense has a lot of questions. And 7, I don't know if they're any good. They are in a tough division. Arizona's a team, again, the markets are likely to move to the over for Arizona. San Fran in Jersey is at 11 as opposed to 10.5 here in Vegas, so juice to the over. The LA Rams here in Jersey are 9 compared to 9.5, with juice to the under in Vegas. And Seattle is 9.5. 110 either both ways at PointsBet. And certainly, yes, when we think of, and yeah, those numbers are not refreshed. Arizona and Houston are not back up on the board yet. Now that I've refreshed the
at PointsBet at Circa, they are, Teddy. I'm going all the way to place the bet, and which it would have told me not to by now, and it's
right.
Win 7 plus 110. So yes, it is a bettable number at Circa, guys.
That's not. There's worse bets to make than Arizona over. Rams are an interesting choice. An interesting team to consider. A team with that, they're trying to re-sign a whole bunch of their free agents. A team that underachieved a little bit last year, and a team that a lot of people still have question marks about if Goff's going to be any good. Gut reaction on that. With Arizona better, with San Fran elite, with Seattle will be there. Seattle's lined appropriately at 9.5, 9.5. The team to not be bullish on in that division is the LA Rams. Again. first gut reactions, Rams under is one that might be worthy of a look.
All right, Teddy, great breakdown there of the NFL season win totals. We got a couple questions here on Twitter. Get your overall thoughts on the marketplace, Vegas. A lot of news out there, Teddy. But let's hit some of these questions. Only as good as your last is asking on Twitter. Would pay some money to hear an opening line report on the UFC with Drew and Teddy. Teddy, do you do any UFC? Is that possible?
I do not. So I appreciate the compliments. And one thing that I'm not trying to do during this time of upheaval is become something I'm not. Mm-hmm. And try, oh, yeah, I'll tell you guys, I got winners. I'll put up, no. I know what I know. I know it well. I'm an expert at this stuff for a reason. I'm allowed to charge for my plays for a reason. I've been doing this for a long time. And I feel like I do have a legitimate sense over the long term. I'm going to make positive expectation wagers. And over the long term, I do expect my clients to win. If I start putting out stuff, that is on sports that I'm not familiar with, that would no longer be the case. And whatever respectability I have would be gone quickly. So I'm not trying to learn a sport to handicap this week. What about you?
Well, Teddy, that's interesting because, yes, I agree with you. Any bigger bet that I'm making, I'm pretty much sticking to college basketball totals, college football, MLB, kind of my sweet spot there where I've had success in the past. However, as all these sports have gone down, Teddy, we had UFC kind of take center stage here. I was involved. I bet it. Nothing crazy, but I'm not, charging for my expertise here. I just kind of tweet out what I'm betting, and people can do what they want. Do you have I guess, issue with that or no?
Not at all. Okay. No. And again, but I'm not a UFC expert. Okay. I can't pretend to be a UFC expert, and I can't look at a UFC line and intrinsically know, hey, it's likely to go this way, or hey, it's likely to go that way, like we can with the NFL,
right? Because
we've been doing it so long. So I thank you for the compliment. And I encourage, in terms of recreational size wagers, hell yeah, bet La Liga, man. Bet whatever the hell you want.
I did,
but that's what we do. But they have to be recreational size wagers.
Yeah,
they cannot be standard unit size wagers, and there's a big difference in that for me.
Yeah, and Teddy, it comes down to, like you brought up, Mexican La Liga. I bet 2 games this weekend, and it's almost. I was talking with a couple guys in the green room, like. It gets to the point like where I'm not above betting rules, like there is some fun out there. I like kind of that term.
Yeah. And recreational betting is betting for entertainment and fun.
Right.
No, small bet's fine. Yeah. Knock yourself out, dude. Yeah. Send me a play.
Okay. We got
believe me, I need some action, man. I got to go. I haven't, we're used to having daily action. It's a little bit weird not to.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, we got Mr. Welsh on Twitter. What's up, man? Thanks for the question. What type of questions can be asked? And Mr. Welch, and anybody out there, any type of question can be asked. There is no stupid questions. Sports betting questions, NFL, what's going on in the industry, lifestyle questions. You want to talk about the stock. Any type of question is fine, guys. Feel free to reach out at Teddy_covers, at Drew Martin Betts, also at Sports Memo, and we will get them out here on the podcast. But he also asks, when looking at NFL totals, what are the top 3 stats variables to look at and best place to get that information?
Excellent question, and thank you for your question. And before I answer it, I have to addendum here because I just went down to the bottom. NFL regular season wins wagers. Teams must play 16 regular season games for action. A tie is worth 0 wins. And the season must finish by March 31st, 2021. Those are the Circa rules. It's a full 16-game season. Obviously, a tie is worth 0, which is why unders sometimes are a little bit better than overs. And the fact that they don't line at 256 wins. They often line at like 259 or 260 wins if you add them all up together.
Yeah, that's an important stat there because MLB is the same way.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Although when you factor in the juice, sometimes it's a little bit less. The most important stats for win totals for me from one year to the next: strength of schedule differential. who they played last year versus who they're going to play this year. Turnover margin. Yards per play differential a year ago compared to the record. That's the three stats that absolutely stand out. Let's go through them individually.
Sure. Because I got some questions on the last two.
All right. What was the first one again?
Strength of schedule differential.
Yeah, strength of schedule. Yeah. Okay. So I do strength of schedule a little bit differently. I do it a lot differently, and you should do it a lot differently too. First of all, when you're looking at this year's numbers, pay no attention to last year's numbers. Okay, they're going to give you the mainstream strength of schedule numbers are all wrong. The way to base your mainstream strength of schedule numbers are on this year's win totals. We have them already. You factor in the juice the same way we talked about. Every extra 10 cents worth of juice is worth 1/5. Sorry.
Yeah, 50 cents.
50 cents worth of juice is equal to half a game, which means every 10 cents worth of juice is equal to 1/10 of a game.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yes. when you're figuring it out? But that's how you figure out how tough this year's schedule is, not what teams' records were last year. And for last year's stuff, me and you've done number of podcasts on this over time, where I do my numbers based on the powering numbers on how tough their schedule was last year was not the final record of the teams. It was their powering number on the week the game was played. And that's how I do my strength of schedule. So that's the first thing I'm going to look at is this year's strength of schedule numbers and my numbers for last year. And neither of them are mainstream numbers. They're both numbers you have to dig for a little bit or create yourself. So to me, that's at the top. Turnover margin has got to be number 2. A lot of people have it as number 1. You know, the teams that are plus 20 are likely to regress to the mean. The teams that are minus 20 are likely to regress to the mean, et cetera, et cetera. And much of a team's success or failure in any given season can be, you point the finger right at turnover differential. That said, there are a good handful of teams that are built for positive turnover margins, and there are a good handful of teams that are built for negative turnover margins. So that's just one piece of the equation. And when I say built for positive turnover margin, you have a defense you can create takeaways, you have a quarterback who doesn't make mistakes, you have an offensive line who can protect them. When you have teams that are built for losing the turnover battle, you have a defense that doesn't create takeaways, you have a young quarterback who makes mistakes, you have an offensive line that can't protect them, et cetera, et cetera. And those teams, you can go into the season and say Carolina's going to lose the turnover battle this year and know that and bet that with some level of confidence. You know, so turnover differential is something you look at from last year, but you look at it with an asterisk. You have to factor it in. And the third, you had quite. What was the third one?
Well, I guess it was yards per play differential.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah.
But the turnover margin, I have a question, but you kind of answered it. One being, I don't think it is totally random because defensive coordinators in practice, you can just tell from playing the sport. You know, some teams are more, aggressive in causing turnovers and they're practicing it all the time. Some teams aren't. Plus the fact interceptions, Teddy, if a quarterback is more if he throws more interceptions in the future, he's likely going to throw more interceptions. It's not something that I believe that's actually handicapable.
I don't disagree. Again, what I'm saying, I agree and disagree. I agree that it's handicapable to the sense of you can take last year's numbers and say this one deserves an asterisk. This one team is likely to be minus 15 again. Hey, this team was minus 18 and that was random. They should get better. You go through each team given their individual circumstance and say this is a team that's likely to continue to have these problems. This is a team that it looks a lot more like a random aberration last year, whether it's positive or negative. And that's a handicap. That's a work process. That's not the numbers are going to tell you the process.
Okay. Yeah. And then the last one, yards per play. I don't know if it was differential though.
Yeah, yards per play differential. Okay. What you allowed on offense versus what you gained on defense. That is a much better sense of how good your team actually was last year than any other factor. Did you outgain your opponents on a yards per play basis? And that yards per play differential is like the secret sauce of how good this team actually was versus the teams that were, how bad this team actually was, as opposed to their record. But if you're looking for numbers, hard numbers, how good a team was last year, yards per play for, yards per play against, the differential.
And are you taking it the next step to where, if a team's always down multiple touchdowns, they're kind of getting garbage yards there in the fourth quarter? Are you taking that away from the team? Or?
Of course.
Okay.
But again, that's a piece of the process. When you find a team that's went 9-7 last year and they were minus a half yard per play, you say that was an overachieving season.
Okay.
This team's likely to regress. You find a team that was 6-10 and they were plus 0.1 yards per play, you say, hey, they underachieved. That's at least part of the reason why people like Tampa. And we can go through. I mean, I got all the stats, but I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Go through them all right now. This podcast is we're going to need to plan for podcasts.
Okay.
So we can go through some of the stats on that. Next week or the week after, and talk about those three particular numbers: my strength of schedule numbers, and yards per play numbers, and turnover differential, and see where that leads us on our path to profitable NFL season win total.
All right, Teddy Covers on Twitter at Teddy_covers. Guys, we got a segue here because we're already at the 45-minute mark. We were planning on this being 30 to 40 minutes, but great analysis there on the NFL season win total market from Teddy Covers. We did want to hit a little bit on Las Vegas, the overall news in the marketplace, and this is something that we'll be talking about ongoing each and every Monday morning here. But Teddy, your overall thoughts? Just saw what MGM is closing properties here in Las Vegas. Noticeably, something I try to do is at least walk or run on the Strip, 3-4 times a week. Yesterday, I did a run on the Strip. Noticeably less foot traffic on the Strip for a sunny Sunday afternoon. Great weather here, but I would say half the amount of people is normal. You usually couldn't run on the Strip. You'd have to kind of walk because there's too many people. You could run yesterday, and just the casinos, not as many people, people being laid off left and right. Have you kind of I guess experienced this in Las Vegas before, and what is your overall thoughts of what's going on?
So I've seen Las Vegas in a severe downturn twice since I've been here, and so the two same events. We all remember them, post 9/11, this town shut down for about a week or two, but it wasn't that long. Things were real quiet, and then they opened right back up. I mean, it took a little while for the economy to get going again, but it wasn't such a shock that the casinos were going broke.